In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Malay, Upadhyay, and today we're going to be talking about SalesChoice. It's an AI platform that supports, sales members leveraging their AI insights engine in order to drive better results from their efforts. And Malay will give us an insight on how SalesChoice works, who they're working with, but also how he's thinking about growth for the company. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. So, Malay, maybe give people a little bit of an insight. What is SalesChoice all about in your own words?
Sure. Well, you started off pretty accurately. We are an AI platform as a service. There are essentially three components to that platform. One is the services component, which is designed to help enable companies to use AI technologies of different kinds. And that includes everything from taking care of their existing processes, the data in place, the IT architecture, the modernization, and so forth, so on and so forth. We guide them to envision, plan, and approach the use of modern technologies for their specific business use cases. The second use case is, as the name suggests, it's meant for sales teams, and it helps improve the productivity of salespeople as a way to improve or increase the revenue, the top line revenue. And the third piece goes in a different direction. It's designed to reduce cost, and that is not meant for the sales team only. It's meant for the whole organization, wherein it helps organizations to reduce costs by arresting churn among their employees and taking care of operational risks that may otherwise not be visible until they turn into $1 million problems. So addressing them quickly. And that, in a nutshell, is basically the ecosystem of what we bring to the table.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Now, maybe tell us a little bit about the customers. What types of organizations would you be working with, and where sort of the SalesChoice have the biggest impact?
That's a good question. So in terms of our focus, it is the B2B landscape, business selling to other businesses, but generally B2B that are at least medium or large enterprise levels. So, fairly big, not the smaller entities. In terms of the specific focus for our SalesChoice product, the sales insights, which is meant for the sales teams, the buyer would be a CRO, the head of sales or head of sales ops, who is responsible for the sales force setup within the organization or for improving the as I said, the performance of their sales team. When it comes to the general services, data science services, the first component, there the buyer can really be anyone who has a business use case they require solving, from CROs to the heads of IT, CIOs, to even the CFO. And then we come to the cost reduction part, where the focus is on the COO and the CHRO. Why these two? Because employee churn, of course, is the first mandate for the HRs, and controlling that can be really costly. But when it comes to operational risk, especially in, let's say, factories or among your fleet of drivers for any transportation company, it's all under the purview of the COO, and he has to make sure that, or she has to make sure that everything is going well, everything is to order, there are no legal risk, financial risk, and so on and so forth. And that essentially encapsulates the buyer profile.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Now, tell us a little bit more about sort of the key problems that they really tackle with SalesChoice. So, we talked a bit about it high level, but, what are the sort of the key things that, when people arrive at SalesChoice, they really, want to solve?
So when it comes to sales insights, and the reason I'm talking about the two products in two different ways is because there's a linkage that's emerged and that's led to them. I'll come to it in a moment. But Sales Insights was our original product, and it was meant for precisely one problem: improving the focus of sales professionals. By removing human bias, reducing their tendency to go after deals that are not likely to close, just focus on the right deals, but explain to them why that deal is right. Go beyond what is available in the data, and that's where machine learning comes into the picture to expose, some of the win factors lying therein. We are a transparent AI company, and we have always been proud of that. When it comes to the Mood Insights app, which is on the churn and cost control, that is our effort to bring humanity back into the picture. The caveat, the thesis there is that you cannot improve things, whether it's productivity or efficiency in the company, or tackle problems simply by applying a lot of technology alone. The technology has to be adopted, but the technology also has to be utilized to make sure that people are in the right frame of mind and to capture that and to hone and leverage that. And there people come to us in case of, let's say, companies that have a lot of fleets. They tend to experience 100% churn among their drivers, especially the drivers who operate large trucks, and each driver churn costs $10,000. That's a lot of cost. And it's to arrest things like that Mood Insights becomes of interest. For insurance companies, it could be of interest because the insurance risks, if people are not feeling well or not in the right frame of mind. And that could be another use case why people come. So two different realities. One is geared towards growth. The other is geared towards efficiency and controlling downfall, so to speak. And those are the main problems. The third bucket are really people who are simply struggling with overall efficiencies. So once again, efficiency being the key factor where you want to improve it, but you are not sure whether you have the right data, whether data is in the right place and things of that nature.
That makes sense. Now, what would you actually say then? Like, who are the individuals that are, are the ones that bringing SalesChoice into their organizations? Would there be a sales lead? Does it come more from the C-suite? Like, who's sort of, heading up that effort?
So CRO would be for Sales Insights. Sales Insights is a product under the banner SalesChoice, which is available as an app to install on Salesforce. And it's meant for sales teams, so CROs become the main group. On the churn side, for Mood Insights, the people bringing in would be a COO if we are talking about a frontline workforce for whom it's being brought in, or it could be the CHRO if we are talking about the general employees all across, and those would be the buyers primarily. In either case, because we dabble so heavily with the architecture, the IT architecture, the AI enablement, CIOs generally always are there as influencers, of course.
Mm-hmm. Now, who would you say, or how would you say those individuals actually learn about SalesChoice? I mean, there is obviously a lot of information out there. What's their journey looking like? What are the channels that they're tapping in order to get to know you guys?
Well, Cindy and I, Dr. Cindy Gordon is our CEO. We've been pretty good in trying to drive the market through thought leadership. We are blessed to have similar interests. She's the author of 14 books. I've authored 5. She is a writer on Forbes as well. She publishes on a bi-weekly basis. Whereas I recently finished publishing a trilogy of books on artificial intelligence. And then, of course, she's an advisor as well as an instructor at different schools, executive courses. I'm the advisor at University of Richmond's Customer Experience program. So we have managed to percolate across the industry to ensure that there are partnerships in place and channels enabled that allow this. But what we have then done is also automated significantly our pipeline. And that would be, of course, in line with what you're saying and what Pathwang does. What we have done is established, because we are a small team at the end of the day, we have established an automation protocol where we have intent-based leads that are coming in, being captured and fed into a CRM. From there, they are being parsed and segmented into profiles and being picked up based on the different triggers, and then reached out over different channels. And we are in the process of applying a personality deducer, which will allow us to reach out to the same buyer profile, but in different words or differently based on their personality. So it's an entire pipeline that has been set up to automate as much of the front end as we can before we get to actual conversations where then Cindy and I come in. Ours is a complex sale with the exception of Mood Insights, which of course is much more quicker to just install and run with. And therefore, there's a lot of consultation that's involved in the sales cycles. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Now, tell me a little bit about the role of the website, right? Like, I mean, you guys are generating, as you said, like, high quality content on high quality channels. Like, what role do you attribute to the website? How do you think about that when it comes to client generation?
I think it's the same as in case of most solutions and services firms or platforms, right? It's not a plug and play or an e-commerce where you go and you just buy something off of the website. So the website becomes more of an educational front. It becomes more positioned to make sure that people get a good appreciation of what is it that they are going to get from us, as far as possible, establishing to them the business case for partnering with us. And that's what we use the website for primarily. We have, of course, a pretty robust blog channel that's there, but we're in the process of somewhat overhauling that and converting it more to tidbits of information, because of course people love micro information more than really long pieces, as you'd agree. But website for us is mainly meant for that. It's meant as a brand awareness piece versus a conversion piece.
And I mean, it's actually quite interesting that you bring it up, this transformation from long form content to smaller pieces of content. What do you see, where do you see a major room for opportunity or improvement? Is it that piece, or is there anything else that you sort of have in mind looking forward as the website develops over the next couple of months?
Well, look, so one thing that I always mention in one of my books, which is around the marketing using AI, is you always have to keep in mind the purpose and the positioning, right? The positioning is what differentiates you, and your positioning determines exactly who out of the many people who are coming to your website are really to your interest. And then to understand exactly what is it that they want. There are many people who are coming, and everyone has a different taste, different buyer profile. You have to have a laser focus, which is more strategic in nature, where you are choosing to focus on one buyer, knowing fully well that there may be other buyers also, just because this one is the broadest market or of most interest. In our case, what happens is when you're talking about buyers who are C-suite, of course, they're not going to read long blogs. There are some things that ties them together from what I've experienced. One is they are primarily and exclusively interested in matters relating to their own industry or industry focus. That's very important to them. Secondly, it's not the quality of the solution that you're bringing to the table. You could have the best solution out there. It does not matter unless or until you can make a case for an instantaneous ROI, and you can make sure that you are able to seamlessly integrate into their systems. Right now, all these different tidbits that I'm giving you, these cannot all be pulled into a singular long blog, and you expect someone to spend 20 minutes reading that. They're never going to do that. So those are the types of information that we are trying to translate into shorter proportions and then consistently relay. Now, in terms of consistency, also there's a problem. There's such a thing as over consistency. You cannot send out information and pester someone every day. They're going to unsubscribe if you're talking about mailers, for example. So you have to space it out, make it non-intrusive, work more towards the pull strategy versus the push. And that's why we use intent-based leads, because if I reach out to you at a time when you are away from office or you're not interested in a product like ours, my chances of success with you are lower, right? And that's essentially the strategy that we're going after.
Very cool. Actually, you mentioned the books, right, that you've been putting out. There is very interesting angles to AI that you bring to the table. Considering the audience of the podcast, the book Modern Marketing Using AI, Leveraging AI-Enabled Marketing Automation is obviously quite relevant. Would you maybe give people like a quick overview? Like, what are sort of the key things that you've learned working through that book and then bringing that out? Like, what is, things that people might overlook a little bit at the moment, or key trends that you see marketers should definitely have a look at?
For sure. So that book goes hand in hand with the first book in the series, which is Artificial Intelligence for Managers. Just to explain at the outset, Modern Marketing Using AI is designed to help you strategize and understand at what point what technologies can be brought in and how. But once you have decided to, let's say, use an AI technology, and you're dabbling over how to go about it. To ensure you succeed from it is why artificial intelligence for managers exists, to help you understand the mechanics of that tool, to help you understand what processes and data pieces you need. And that's why these two go hand in hand. Modern marketing using AI specifically was written to solve a simple problem. People have very different understanding of what marketing is, and I'm sure you see that in your travels all the time. We have to look at marketing, sales, customer service, all these three from a singular lens, and that's the customer journey. In my view, it's one person who is interacting with your company or your brand at different stages and possibly with different people, but that person remains the same. And he is testing you, or he or she is testing you, judging you at each step accordingly, right? So modern marketing using AI starts by explaining that journey of how people perceive and go through the cycles before they turn into your customer. And then it goes into details of which techniques and which technologies are useful as an example at each step. But what it's leading to towards the end is something called brand resonance. Now, most brands, they stop at the loyalty stage. They think I have a customer who's loyal, I'm good. Well, what differentiates that brand from the likes of Apple or a Nike is that Apple or Nike has built resonance to an extent where an Apple user, you say something against Apple, they take it to heart. They start taking it personally. And that's the end goal. That's the resonance you need, because loyalty alone won't sustain you if a downturn comes. The customers are going to move to the more convenient piece. It's resonance that makes people almost irrationally stay with your company no matter what happens, and you need that.
Makes a lot of sense. Super interesting. Of course, I'll put some pointers to the book out there that seems super relevant. Specifically, it's quite difficult, I guess, for a lot of marketers to really figure out what solutions they could actually use at which stage of the user journey and why it makes sense. And great.
You're right. I think the reason I mentioned the AI for Managers book is one of the pieces that I find is all of the schools and courses and everything are focusing on training IT folks on artificial intelligence, But what we forget is in any company, only 20% of the workforce is technical. The users of AI tools are the remaining 80%, who are people who are not necessarily technical. And unless they understand AI in general, they understand how to go about it in the right manner, effective manner, they are the decision makers, the users, the investors of this technology. Unless they do it, companies are bound to struggle with AI adoption. Yeah. And that's why in my view, it's so much more important, just the way you and I know how to use Microsoft Office today. You and I also need to know what and how AI works. We don't have to get into the code of it, with understand a broad level. But you're absolutely right. I feel for marketers, especially because of the nature of our work, it is crucial.
Very good. Super interesting. Now, I would love to actually touch into that a little bit more, or go into that a bit more, because what I would be very curious about is, and this really goes into, the challenges that marketers face today. There is so much content out there for marketers today to learn and improve, right? Even, finding the book, for example, will be a challenge for a lot of marketers out there. What do you do in order to find high quality content? For example, even in your work and research for the book, where do you get high quality insights?
So when it comes to looking for information online, I think ChatGPT has underscored it better than any, that there can be information that looks so true, so right, but it's not. It can be so misleading. And that propensity to go after a shiny new toy is dangerous. I talk about in my books quite a few times that all of our worldly knowledge today is limited to what Google throws on its first page. We simply do not know anything that exists in Google's second page onwards, unfortunately. That's all we know, all our mindset. So finding the right detail is often tricky. But what I found is two things help. Number one, there are sources that we do know for a fact to be credible because they have made sure that they remain as such. Now, it's a double-edged sword. Some people very strongly believe something is credible when it isn't, and that's a problem. But Well, that's a problem for another day. Generally, there are sources that are credible. So when you're going into information, look at what magazine, what publication, what website that is, and that always helps to. And even when you do that, when you get information, try and cross-validate it. Don't just, buy into one and just stick with it. The second thing that I find that is helpful is, so I'm a Pixel user, and Google tends to give me, send me all these recommendations on articles every day. And what I found is it has taken it some time, but because I've consistently been marking things as not interested whenever they feel weird or they come from a skeptical source, it has become pretty good at giving me the kind of sources that it knows that I'll most likely end up opening. And that's where technology is helping. I'm using the recommendation engine to work in my favor. It needs some help from me. And that goes with everything AI. At the end of the day, it's not there to replace you or do the work for you. It only works best when it works hand in hand with you. And it's the same logic. But I would say those two generally tend to help. Don't go after the shiny new toy every time it comes in is the point, take it with a bit of salt.
Very good. That makes a whole lot of sense. Very cool. I got some rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. Are you ready for those?
I'll try my best.
What is the last book that you read yourself?
Artificial Intelligence for Managers, because I was preparing for a conference that was coming up to. That was easy.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Bringing humanity back into the organization. We are focused on improving human productivity by focusing on their behaviors. And that's why Mood Insights is our latest product. And it's looking into how people are feeling, why, and what is it that they have to share.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer?
Well, if there were no boundaries in tech, then I would absolutely like to better understand people's cognitive state. I would like to better understand their inherent needs in a better way. But I fully understand that that could very easily also be misused. So perhaps it's a good thing that we are not that deep yet.
If you could snap your fingers and there would be one task as a marketer that you would have to do often and repetitively, but you got to get it out of your hands, which one would that be?
Create content.
Mm-hmm. And for the very last question, if we do a little bit of time travel, right, and we go back to the days of, you obviously were very involved in the academics. Let's take the last one, Smith School Business, right? So you're heading out of that. You already had some experience under your belt, but heading deeper into growth and marketing. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey as a marketer heading out of Smith Business School?
Well, if we are talking about marketing, then I'll be remiss if I didn't actually give the credit first to Bocconi University in Milan, because honestly, my marketing specialization wasn't that school, and what I learned serves me to this day. With Smith School, it was more generic, all management besides marketing and everything. So I would like to keep that lens to your question. So do you want to rephrase this, or do we still go ahead?
No, we can go back one. We can go back. We rephrase it. We go one school back, because if that was where you got the insights, that's even better.
I think I would prioritize going into a place where I get to dabble in other facets of the organization besides just marketing. And I would do that. And I was fortunate to have gotten that opportunity anyway, even though I started my role after Smith School precisely in marketing. I managed to expand and go beyond it. I think I found it is so important to not get siloed, because you lose perspective on the realities of your colleagues. You forget that things that you consider ideal and the way to go, it's not ideal when you look at the organization as a whole. And that lens makes all the difference to how well you work as a team, something that Smith School is amazingly good at in teaching. And it's important for everyone to understand that there are realities at play, there are situations. Only when you consider that can you come up with a truly effective solution. Otherwise, as we have in many organizations, marketing sending leads are going down the drain, well, because they're either not relevant, not being picked up in the right way. It's not simply about, oh, people are not doing their jobs. Everyone's doing their best every day. It's the nuances have to be taken care of.
Very good. Now, Malay, I really appreciate you took the time with us to be a guest on Pathway Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed on Sales Choice, what's the one thing people should remember?
Well, that if you have any problem with regards to your business growth that you would like to leverage AI and machine learning for, then we are there for you. And that's the biggest piece to understand. And that could really be any spectrum across cost improvement, cost reduction, or revenue improvement. And we will guide you. We will customize things for you and make sure that you're not left in the lurch. We understand that your business has its own unique reality, and we will make sure that you experience that.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathway Presents.
Thank you again.